Hi, it's me again with Corel Draw Tips and Tricks, and somebody sent me this picture. And as far as anybody in the future, if you send me the file, then I'll know what size these links are and don't have to redraw it. When you use the blend tool or something like this, there's really no way to make this even. I don't know what this is for or what he's doing or how far they need to be spaced out. So instead of doing it as a whole, like this, let's just take this out of the way. Let's move this up so it won't kind of be in the page. So we've got that same drawing basically. Matter of fact, it's a little bit off. Let's grab these top two and hit T, and then makes them even. Now let's take the virtual segment delete key and just swipe through this. So now we still have three objects. We've got one here, and one here. What I would suggest is let's move that one down, and we need to somehow shorten these just by a little bit, and I'm going to kind of explain that maybe. So maybe let's take the first one and let's move these up, and let's put this in the center of the page. Now let's take let me zoom in here a little bit. Let me take a two, and I'm just guessing at this, 2-point line, put it in the center of the page. And we're gonna rotate this guy from the center to where it gets to that point, or close enough. When you're doing this for real, you might wanna, so if you double click on it, sometimes if you're not on that X, that's good enough. So now, let's make it 20 degrees, okay? Control D and make a duplicate of that guy, and make this one 340 degrees, okay? Now we're gonna take the virtual segment delete key, delete these ends, okay? And you know what, before I start this, let's move these X's out of the way. Control D. Well, I didn't need to do that. Let's just move these X's. And like I said, I'm going off the cuff here. Control D, and I'm going to make a duplicate of this guy. And I'm going to go ahead and Control D and make a duplicate of these guys. And I'm using the nudge distance so I can get it right back, because we're going to need those lines. Now let's take the virtual segment delete key and delete that. So now let's take this line and rotate it to that corner. And it's 66, so let's make it 70. Okay. Let's go ahead and Control D and make a duplicate, and 360, so we need 290. Now we're going to virtual segment delete key these two. What we're doing is making these lines shorter, because when we blend, it'll help us, and I'll hopefully show you why. Now we need to just nudge this out of the way, and we'll move it over. Let's nudge these down to the middle. And we need to do the exact same thing. It's going to be a little bit harder because we don't know where the center is. But we can take a line and hopefully move it around, and it should say the center. Now we've already kind of got that one good. So we'll go ahead and delete that little edge. And then we'll take a line and rotate it. And if you rotate around your line, it should snap to that line. It didn't in that point. But if you double click on it and kind of get near that line, now we're at 265, so let's make it 270 and hit delete. And I'm not doing this exactly. If you were doing it for real, you might want to get out a calculator and make them perfect. Now, so we've got this one shorter. So what we can do to make them equal, Control D and make a duplicate and mirror this guy, and then just drag it over to the center of that. While it's selected, move it out of the way and get rid of this one. Now we can move this one right back, and I'm just using my arrow keys. So we pretty much got it done. I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. Oh, man. How did that happen? It ought to be, let me hold down the control button. It ought to kind of look like that. I don't know how I nudged that wrong. So as you can see, my lines are shorter, okay? Now, we'll grab these top two and move them out of the way. And what we're gonna do is go up here to Object and break Curve apart. That gives us two lines. Now, here's our object. We're gonna make 4 copies of this, at least. Grab 2 of them, go up to Effects, Blend, and maybe across the top we only need 2. Apply. Pick a new path, put it on that path, blend along full path, and rotate all objects. And if you kind of understand what I'm doing, I'm keeping it, well, I'm still going to go past our object, but we'll keep going. Now we'll grab another one of these and blend on this one, let's say 12 times. Apply, new path, and you can kind of look at it. Blend along full tap path and rotate. And then you can kind of see if it's kind of spaced out like the other ones. We got extremely lucky. Now let's do these, and we'll go, let's blend 6 along new path, blend along full path, and rotate. And they're really kind of spaced out the same. So we'll do the same thing here. I think we did 6, apply, and you could actually just copy that one over. New path, blend along full path, and rotate object. Okay, now we can nudge these down. And we've got too much of an overlap. I really don't know I wish I knew more about what he was doing. You know, that kind of might work, but I should have made my parts shorter, as you can see. And so if you understand that, if I would have instead of rotating this 5 degrees, if I would have done it more. But when one thing you could do, they're pretty good in the corners. You could take the virtual segment delete key and delete, well, no, you can't. Okay, let's grab everything, go up to object, break the 16 objects apart, go up to object, group, and ungroup all objects. The blend changes things. So let's see if we got individual items, and we do. So now let's zoom in here. And I'm not thinking this will work, but it's just an idea. It might even be pretty cool, because I don't know what these pieces are. We can get rid of, I don't know if he wants the lines in there or not. Probably don't need that line or that line, that line. I don't know, I really don't know what he's doing with these. See, it's kind of hard to tell, but it would give the effect that that's going around the corner. I don't know if this is a link or what this is. I actually probably took away one too many lines. I shouldn't have taken away that middle one. I shouldn't have taken away that one right there. And I have no clue if I'm doing this guy's service or not. And I don't know if he wants these lines. You know, if you don't want the lines, you can just delete the lines. I don't know what he's doing with them. And I would actually probably move this up a little bit. Get your nudge factor set on something pretty little like 0.02 and nudge this guy up, kind of make it look like more of the length. And then do the same thing for the other side. Now, everything should be equal. So you could do this, grab both those and delete them. Grab both these, control duplicate, mirror them, hold down the control button and move it over here. And I really wait, and I might have to make a second video once I know what he's doing and actually need to move this down a little bit. Let's change our nudge distance to something a little lower. Well, 0.02 ought to be good enough. And then you could move this guy down just a scunch. Well, I need to grab both of them. There we go. And then if he doesn't need these lines, you can delete these lines. And then that way, everything's kind of equal. Same thing on these corners. That might be the answer. I don't know. That'd be a pretty cool effect. Anyway, I hope that helped him a little bit.